tried to crash my wedding until my fiancé thanked him. I was halfway through my vows when the room went silent in the wrong way. Not the normal kind. The kind where breath gets held and heads turn. I saw my fiancé's eyes flick past my shoulder, just for a second, and then his jaw tightened. He didn't let go of my hands. I turned. Matt was standing 3 feet behind the minister, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He wasn't dressed for a wedding. Jeans, a wrinkled button-down, hair a little too long, like he'd been up all night convincing himself this was a good idea. The minister froze mid-sentence, one hand still raised in blessing. My maid of honor made a sound I'd never heard her make before, half gasp, half warning. Someone in the third row whispered my name like a question. Matt didn't move. He just stood there, staring at me like we were the only 2 people in the room. "I have unfinished business," he said, loud enough that everyone heard. My fiancé's grip on my hands shifted, not tighter, just steadier. He turned his head slightly, enough to see Matt without breaking contact with me. His voice came out calm, too calm. "Then say what you need to say." I wanted to scream at him, wanted to ask what he was doing, why he wasn't throwing Matt out, why he was giving him a stage, but his thumb brushed the inside of my wrist once, deliberate, and I stayed quiet. Matt blinked. He'd expected a fight, expected to be dragged out or shouted down. He hadn't expected permission. He took a breath and started talking. "You don't belong here," he said, looking only at me. "Not with him. You know that. You've always known that." My chest went tight. 4 years of this. 4 years of him deciding what I felt, what I needed, what I was supposed to want. 4 years of being told I was making a mistake every time I tried to leave. "We had something real," Matt continued, voice rising. "You can't just walk away from that. You can't just replace me." There it was. The same line he'd texted me 6 months ago when I sent him the engagement announcement. The one I'd ignored because I thought silence would be enough. I thought he'd move on. I thought wrong. The guests were staring now. My mother had one hand over her mouth. My father looked ready to stand, but my fiancé's best man put a hand on his shoulder and shook his head once. Matt kept going. His hands moved as he talked like he was pleading a case. "You remember the night we drove to the coast? You said you'd never felt that way with anyone else. You said I understood you." I did say that. I was 22 and convinced intensity meant love. I thought the way he needed me was the same as wanting me. It took me 2 years to learn the difference. "You were mine first," Matt said, and his voice cracked. That has to mean something. My fiancé let go of one of my hands. For a second, I thought he was stepping back, giving me space to handle this alone. But he didn't move away. He just shifted his weight, angled himself so he was looking at Matt fully, and smiled. Not a kind smile, not cruel either, just certain. "Thank you," my fiancé said, voice still level, still steady, "for showing me exactly who she survived." The room went still again. Different this time. Matt's face went red. His mouth opened, closed. He looked at me like I was supposed to defend him, supposed to soften the blow. I didn't. 2 venue security guards in dark suits stepped to his sides. Present, not rough. "Sir, let's step outside," one said quietly. Matt's jaw worked, but he moved. They walked him down the aisle and out the side door. It closed behind them. Applause broke out, uneven at first, then building. My fiancé turned back to me, took both my hands, and nodded to the minister. "We can keep going," he said quietly. The minister stood there holding his book like a shield, looking between me and my fiancé and the door Matt had just exited through. My maid of honor reached for my arm, but I shook my head. I didn't need steadying. Not yet. My fiancé squeezed my hand once and let go. He turned to face the guests, still calm, still composed, and said, "We're going to take 5 minutes. Please stay seated." My mother stood up. She looked pale, her hands twisted together in front of her chest. My father put a hand on her shoulder, but she pulled away and started toward me. I held up a hand. "I'm fine," I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. She stopped halfway down the aisle. "Sweetheart?" "I'm fine," I repeated, firmer this time. She looked at my fiancé, then back at me, and slowly sat back down. My father leaned in and whispered something to her. She nodded, but her eyes stayed on me. The guests were murmuring now, low, careful voices. I caught fragments. "Who was that?" "An ex, I think." "Did you see his face?" "I can't believe he just..." My fiancé touched my elbow, gentle, and guided me a few steps to the side, out of the center aisle. The minister moved with us, still clutching his book. "Are you all right?" my fiancé asked quietly. I looked at him, really looked. His expression hadn't changed. No anger, no embarrassment, just that same steady certainty he'd had when he told Matt thank you. "You knew," I said. He didn't deny it. I thought he might try something. "And you didn't tell me." "I didn't want you spending today afraid of him." His hand moved to my face, thumb brushing my cheek. "I wanted you to have your wedding, not his disruption." "You let him talk," I said. "I did." "Why?" He smiled, just a little. "Because you never got to hear him run out of things to say." That hit me harder than I expected. 4 years with Matt, and I never once got to stand still and listen to him spin out. Every fight, every breakup attempt, every late-night phone call, I was always the one scrambling to respond, to defend, to explain. I never just let him finish. Until now. "Did you see his face?" my fiancé asked, voice soft. When I said that line, I had. Matt's face had gone from red to white in the span of a breath. He'd looked at me like I was supposed to rescue him, like I owed him that. "He thought you'd fight him," I said. "I know." My fiancé's hand dropped back to mine. "But you don't fight ghosts. You just let them realize they're already gone." The minister cleared his throat. I can hold as long as you need." My fiancé looked at me. "What do you want to do?" I looked back at the guests. My mother was crying now, but quietly, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue my father handed her. My bridesmaids were huddled together near the front, whispering, glancing at me every few seconds. My younger cousin, who was supposed to be the flower girl, was sitting in her mother's lap, wide-eyed and confused. And Matt's chair, the one in the back corner where he must have been sitting before he stood up, was empty now. Someone had already moved the program off the seat. "I want to keep going," I said. My fiancé nodded. He turned to the minister. "We're ready." The minister exhaled, visibly relieved, and stepped back into position. My fiancé took both my hands again, and we returned to the center of the aisle. The murmuring stopped. Someone coughed. A baby made a small sound in the back row and then went quiet. The minister opened his book again. His hands were shaking a little. "Where were we?" "You were about to ask if anyone objected," my maid of of honor said from behind me. Her voice was sharp, almost daring anyone to try. A few people laughed. Nervous, but real. The tension cracked just a little. The minister nodded. Right. Well. He glanced at the door Matt had left through, then back at us. I think we've covered that part. More laughter, louder this time. He cleared his throat and looked down at the page. Then by the power vested in me. Wait, I said. Everyone froze. I turned to my fiancé. His expression didn't change, but I saw the question in his eyes. I need to say something first, I said. He nodded. Didn't ask what. Didn't try to stop me, just nodded and waited. I took a breath and looked out at the guests. At my mother, who had stopped crying and was watching me with something close to pride. At my father, whose jaw was still tight but whose eyes were soft. At my friends, my family, the people who had shown up today to watch me promise my life to someone. I spent 4 years thinking love was supposed to hurt, I said. My voice carried, clear and steady. I thought it was supposed to feel like drowning, like I was always one wrong move away from losing everything. I turned back to my fiancé. His eyes hadn't left my face. And then I met you, I said. And you taught me what it feels like to breathe. His jaw tightened, just once, but he didn't look away. I squeezed his hands. Let's get married. The minister smiled. Now we're ready. The vows went fast after that. I barely heard them. Not because I wasn't present, but because everything felt both sharper and softer at once. My fiancé's voice, the minister's careful pronunciation of each line, the way my maid of honor sniffled behind me and tried to hide it. When the minister said, "You may kiss," my fiancé leaned in slow, like we had all the time in the world. The guests erupted. Applause, cheers, someone's uncle whistling loud enough to make the flower girl cover her ears. We walked back down the aisle together, hands linked, and I felt the eyes on us. Warm eyes, proud eyes. A few people were still wiping tears. My mother reached out as we passed, and I squeezed her hand without stopping. The doors opened to the reception hall, and the coordinator was already there, headset on, clipboard in hand. She looked at us, then at the clock, then back at us. We're 10 minutes behind, she said. Do you want to skip the receiving line? My fiancé looked at me. I shook my head. We're doing it, I said. She nodded and spoke into her headset. They're doing the line. Adjust the timeline. We stood just outside the hall, and the guests filed past. Hugs, congratulations, a few jokes about most memorable ceremony ever. My father hugged me hard and didn't say anything. My mother held my face in both hands and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." My best friend from college grabbed me by the shoulders and said, "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen." I laughed. It felt good. But halfway through the line, I saw my cousin, my younger cousin, the one who'd been Matt's friend first, back when we were all in the same circle. He stepped up, hands in his pockets, and didn't meet my eyes. "Hey," he said. "Hey." He glanced at my fiancé, then back at me. I didn't know he was going to do that. I believed him. "I know. It's not your fault." My fiancé stepped in, voice calm. "Did he ask you for details? About the venue? The time?" My cousin hesitated, then nodded. He asked when it started. I thought he was just, I don't know, being nosy. "Did you tell him?" "Yeah." My fiancé nodded once. "Thanks for letting us know." My cousin looked relieved. He hugged me quickly and moved on, but the warmth from the line had cooled a little. I felt it in my chest. Not panic, not anger, just a low hum of awareness. Matt hadn't stumbled into this. He'd planned it. He'd asked questions. He'd timed it. The line ended, and the coordinator ushered us into the reception hall. The lights were dimmed, the table set, the DJ already queuing up the first song. Everything looked perfect, untouched. But my phone was buzzing in the hidden pocket of my dress. I pulled it out. 3 texts. All from numbers I didn't recognize. The first one, "Is that really what happened?" The second, "I heard Matt crashed your wedding. Are you okay?" The third, "Call me when you can. I need to know if you're safe." That last one was from Matt's sister. I stared at the screen. My fiancé leaned over, saw the messages, and his jaw tightened. "Don't answer," he said. "She's asking if I'm safe." "She's fishing," he said. "She wants your side so she can spin it for him." I knew he was right. Matt's sister had always been like that. Loyal to a fault, defensive to the point of blindness. When Matt and I broke up the first time, she'd called me crying, begging me to give him another chance. When we broke up the second time, she'd accused me of giving up too easily. I turned the phone off and slipped it back into my pocket. The reception started. We did the first dance, and I focused on my fiancé's hand on my waist, the way he hummed along to the song even though he didn't know all the words. We cut the cake, and he dabbed a little frosting on my nose instead of smashing it in my face. My father gave a toast that made half the room cry, and my maid of honor gave one that made everyone laugh. But underneath it all, I felt it. The buzz, the whispers, the looks. People weren't talking about the vows. They were talking about Matt. During dinner, I overheard 2 of my coworkers at the next table. One of them said, "I can't believe he just walked up like that." The other one said, "I heard they dated for years. She must have done something." I set my fork down. My fiancé's hand found mine under the table. He didn't say anything, just held on. After dinner, the DJ opened the floor, and people started dancing. My younger cousins took over the center, doing some TikTok routine they'd clearly practiced. My mother danced with my father, slow and careful, like they were the only ones in the room. I stayed at the table. My fiancé sat beside me, scanning the room. His posture was relaxed, but I knew him well enough to see the tension in his shoulders. "You're waiting for something," I said. "I'm making sure nothing else happens." "You think he'll come back?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I think he's not done yet." That hum in my chest kicked up a notch. My maid of honor appeared, breathless, holding 2 drinks. She set one in front of me and dropped into the chair across from us. "Your aunt just asked me if Matt was the one that got away," she said. "I told her he was the one that got escorted out." I laughed despite myself. She leaned in, voice lower. "But seriously, people are talking, and not all of it's supportive." "What are they saying?" She hesitated. "Some people think you should have handled it privately, that letting him talk was, I don't know, cruel." My fiancé's hand tightened on mine. "Cruel," I repeated. "I'm just telling you what I heard." I looked out at the dance floor, at the people laughing, spinning, clinking glasses, at my family, my friends, the people who were supposed to be here for me. Matt hadn't just shown up to disrupt the ceremony, he'd planted a seed, a question, a doubt. Even now, hours later, he was still in the room. My fiancé stood. He held out his hand. Dance with me, he said. I looked up at him. Now? Now. I took his hand and he led me onto the floor. The DJ saw us coming and switched the song. Something slower, softer. The crowd parted a little, and we stepped into the center. He pulled me close, one hand on my waist, the other holding mine. We swayed and he leaned down until his mouth was near my ear. They're watching, he said quietly. I know. Let them. We danced, and I felt the room shift. The whispers didn't stop, but they changed, softened. People weren't talking about Matt anymore. They were watching us. When the song ended, my fiancé kissed my forehead and the room erupted in applause. We walked off the floor together and I felt lighter. Not free, not yet, but lighter. Then my phone buzzed again. I pulled it out. One new message from a number I didn't recognize. You can't just erase me. I showed my fiancé. His expression didn't change, but his eyes went cold. He's outside, my fiancé said. My fiancé was already moving before I could process the words on the screen. He crossed the reception hall in long strides, not running, but purposeful, and I followed. My maid of honor called after me, but I didn't stop. The coordinator tried to intercept us near the door, clipboard raised like a shield, but my fiancé shook his head once and she stepped aside. The lobby was empty, just marble floors, tall windows, and the faint sound of music bleeding through from the reception. My fiancé pushed open the front doors and stepped outside. Matt was standing at the edge of the parking lot, hands in his pockets, lit by the glow of the street lamps. He wasn't hiding. He was waiting. My fiancé stopped at the top of the steps. I stood beside him and Matt looked up. His face was flushed, his hair disheveled. He looked like he'd been pacing. You need to leave, my fiancé said. Matt ignored him, his eyes locked on mine. We need to talk. No, I said. Yes. He took a step forward. You don't get to just move on like I didn't happen. Like we didn't happen. We're done, Matt. We're not. His voice cracked. You can't just decide that. You don't get to erase 4 years. My fiancé's hand found the small of my back, steady and grounding. She's not erasing anything. She's moving forward. Matt's jaw clenched. You don't know her like I do. I know her better. You don't. Matt's voice rose, echoing off the pavement. You don't know what we had. You don't know what she promised me. I felt my chest tighten. Not from fear, but from the sheer weight of the lie. I never promised you anything. You said you'd always love me. I said that when I was 23 and didn't know better. You said it, and I meant it then. I don't mean it now. Matt's face twisted. You're lying to yourself. I'm not. You are. He was walking toward us now, slow but deliberate. You're standing there in that dress next to him, pretending you're happy. But you're not. You can't be. Because you know. You know we're supposed to be together. My fiancé stepped in front of me. Not aggressive, just present. A wall. Stop, he said. Matt stopped, but his eyes stayed on me. This isn't about him. This is about us. About what we were supposed to be. There is no us, I said. There is. There always has been. You felt it too. I know you did. I felt a lot of things with you, Matt. None of them were good. His face flushed darker. That's not true. It is. You're rewriting history. I'm telling the truth. You're lying. His voice broke, and for a second, he looked like he might cry. Then the anger snapped back into place. You're lying because he's standing there. Because you're trying to protect his feelings. But you don't have to. You can still fix this. I stared at him. Fix what? This. Us. Everything. He gestured wildly at the building, the parking lot, the world. You made a mistake. You got scared. I get it. But you can still stop this. You can still choose me. I did choose, I said. I chose him. You chose wrong. My fiancé's voice cut in, low and sharp. She chose right, and you need to accept that. Matt's eyes flicked to him, then back to me. You're really going to let him speak for you? He's not speaking for me, I said. He's standing with me. There's a difference. There's not. There is. Matt shook his head, pacing now, hands raking through his hair. This is insane. This is not how this was supposed to go. How was it supposed to go? My fiancé asked. Matt stopped. What? How is this supposed to go? My fiancé's tone was calm, almost curious. You show up, interrupt the ceremony, say your piece, then what? She leaves with you? Calls off the wedding? Matt didn't answer. That's what you wanted, isn't it? You wanted her to see you, hear you, and realize she made a mistake. You wanted her to choose you in front of everyone. Matt's jaw worked. She should. Why? Because we belong together. Says who? Says me. And her? Matt looked at me. Tell him. I said nothing. Tell him. Matt repeated louder now. Tell him what we had. Tell him it meant something. It did mean something, I said. It meant I learned what I didn't want. Matt flinched like I'd slapped him. I learned what it feels like to shrink myself to make someone else comfortable. I continued. I learned what it's like to apologize for things I didn't do. I learned what it's like to be told I'm not enough and too much at the same time. That's not fair. It's true. You're making me sound like a monster. I'm telling you what it felt like to be with you. His hands balled into fists. I loved you. You loved the idea of me. You loved having someone who couldn't say no. That's not. It is. My voice was steady now, clearer than it had been all night. You didn't love me, Matt. You loved controlling me. And when I finally left, you couldn't handle it because it wasn't your choice. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. You're wrong. You are. She's not, my fiancé said. Matt's eyes snapped to him, and for the first time, I saw real fury there. You don't get to talk. I do, actually. No, you don't. This is between me and her. It stopped being between you and her the second you walked into our wedding. Matt took a step closer. You think you're better than me? I think I'm better for her. You don't know her. I know she doesn't flinch when I walk into a room. I know she doesn't apologize for laughing too loud. I know she doesn't check her phone 20 times a day to make sure I'm not angry. Matt's face went red. She never did that. She did, my fiancé said. For years. And now she doesn't. Because she's not with you anymore. Matt was shaking now, his whole body vibrating with rage. You smug piece of... Matt, my voice cut through. Stop. He looked at me and I saw it. The desperation. The need. The absolute refusal to let go. I'm sorry you're hurting, I said. But this is over. It's been over. And showing up here, saying all this, it doesn't change anything. It just proves I was right to leave. His face crumpled. You don't mean that. I do. You can't. I can and I am. He stood there, swaying slightly, like the ground had shifted under him. Then he looked past me, toward the building, and his expression hardened. They're all watching, you know, he said. Your guests, your family, they're all inside talking about this. About us. about how you couldn't even get through your wedding without me showing up. That's on you, I said, not me. They'll remember this. Every time they think about your wedding, they'll think about me. My fiancé stepped forward and his voice dropped, quiet and cold. Thank you. Matt blinked. What? Thank you, my fiancé repeated, for showing me exactly who she survived. The words landed like a punch. Matt's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His face went from red to white, and his hands dropped to his sides. You, he started, but his voice broke. My fiancé didn't move, just stood there, calm and immovable. Matt looked at me one last time. His eyes were wet, his jaw tight. Then he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing across the parking lot. We watched him go, watched him reach his car, yank the door open, and slam it shut. Watched the headlights flare and the engine start. Watched him pull out of the lot and disappear down the street. I exhaled. My fiancé turned to me. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. He pulled me into his arms and I pressed my face into his chest. The music from the reception was still playing inside, faint and distant. Let's go back in, he said. I pulled back and looked up at him. People are going to ask. Let them. We walked back inside together. The coordinator was waiting just inside the doors, her face pale. Is everything? It's fine, my fiancé said. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. We stepped back into the reception hall and the room went quiet. Not silent, but muted. People turned, watched, waited. My fiancé took my hand and led me back onto the dance floor. The DJ saw us and nodded, queuing up another song. We danced, and slowly the room came back to life. The applause started slowly, then built. A few people at first. My cousin near the front, my fiancé's brother in the third row, then half the room, then everyone. It wasn't polite clapping. It was the kind that comes from watching something uncomfortable resolve itself in real time. I barely heard any words. My pulse was still hammering, my legs shaking under the dress. Not from fear, from something else. Relief, maybe, or disbelief, or the strange, weightless feeling of watching something you've carried for years finally let go. My fiancé's thumb traced small circles on the back of my hand. I looked at him, and he was watching me, not the officiant. His expression was soft, grounded, like he was saying, I'm here, you're okay. I exhaled. The officiant reached the vows. My fiancé went first. His voice was steady, clear, and when he said, I promise to stand beside you, not in front of you, I felt my throat tighten. Then it was my turn. I'd memorized the words weeks ago, practiced them in the mirror, in the car, in the shower, but standing there after everything, they felt different, heavier, more real. I promise to meet you as an equal, I said, to love you without shrinking, to build a life with you that doesn't require me to be smaller. His eyes stayed locked on mine and I saw it, the quiet pride, the certainty. The officiant pronounced us married. My fiancé kissed me and the room erupted again, this time with cheers, not applause. Real, unrestrained noise. We walked back down the aisle together and people reached out to touch our arms, our shoulders, whispering congratulations, and you handled that so well, and I can't believe he showed up. My maid of honor was crying. My mom was dabbing her eyes with a tissue. My dad looked like he wanted to go find Matt and finish what security started. We stepped into the lobby and the coordinator was waiting, her clipboard clutched to her chest. She looked like she'd aged 5 years in the last 10 minutes. Are you? She started. We're fine, my fiancé said. She nodded, but her hands were shaking. I don't know how he got in. I had the list. I checked everyone. It's okay, I said. You did everything right. My fiancé's tone was firm, but kind. He wasn't on the list. He wasn't invited. There's no way you could have known. She looked like she wanted to argue, but she just nodded again, swallowing hard. The reception is ready whenever you are. We waited in the lobby while the guests filtered out of the ceremony space and into the reception hall. My maid of honor found me first, pulling me into a hug so tight I couldn't breathe. Oh my god, she whispered. Oh my god. I'm okay, I said. I know, what the hell was he thinking? I don't think he was. She pulled back, her eyes red. Your fiancé is a saint. I would have punched him. I laughed and it felt good. Normal. My mom appeared next, her face a mix of fury and concern. Are you all right? I'm fine, Mom. I swear to God, if I see him again, you won't. She looked at my fiancé. You handled that beautifully. He smiled. I had help. My dad shook his hand, then pulled him into a hug. Thank you, he said quietly. My fiancé nodded. The coordinator ushered us into the reception hall. The room was buzzing, the energy high and crackling. People were already at the bar, at their tables, leaning in to whisper and gesture. I caught fragments as we walked past. Can't believe he actually said that. Security was so fast. Did you see her face? She didn't even flinch. We took our seats at the head table and the DJ started the music. The first dance, the toasts, the cake cutting, it all blurred together, but in a good way. Like the night was moving forward on its own momentum, carrying us with it. My maid of honor gave her speech. She kept it light, funny, only referencing the interruption once, and the room laughed in a way that felt like release. My fiancé's best man went next, and he didn't mention it at all. Just talked about how my fiancé had known, from the first date, that I was the one. He told me, the best man said, grinning, that she laughed at his jokes and didn't apologize for being smarter than him. And I said, marry her before she figures out she can do better. The room erupted. My fiancé shook his head, smiling, and reached for my hand under the table. By the time we cut the cake, the energy had shifted. It wasn't about Matt anymore. It wasn't about the interruption or the scene or the security guards. It was about us. About the fact that we were married. About the fact that we'd stood there in front of everyone and chosen each other. People danced. My dad spun me around the floor, told me he was proud of me, told me my fiancé was a good man. My mom cried again. My friends took 1,000 photos, posted them with captions like, she said yes, again, and best wedding ever. Around 10, my fiancé leaned in close. You want to get out of here? I looked at him. Really? We've done the dances, the toasts, the cake. The rest is just people getting drunk and taking selfies. I laughed. Okay. We slipped out through the back, past the coordinator who tried to stop us but gave up when my fiancé promised we'd be back for the send-off. We walked out into the cool night air and I kicked off my my heels, carrying them in one hand. That was insane, I said. It was. I can't believe you stayed calm. I wasn't calm, I was furious. I looked at him. You didn't look it. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. We reached the edge of the parking lot, where the lights from the building didn't quite reach. He stopped and turned to face me, his hands on my waist. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I paused. Actually, I think I am. Good. Thank you, I said. For knowing, for being ready, for not making me deal with it alone. You would have handled it either way. Maybe, but I didn't have to, because you were there. He kissed me, slow and steady, and I felt it again. That weightless, unshakable certainty. We walked back inside. The party was still going, the music loud, the dance floor packed. We joined in, and no one asked where we'd been. The DJ transitioned into an old throwback, something from college, and the floor surged. My friends pulled me into the center, forming a circle, and for a few minutes I forgot everything except the bass and the movement, and the way my dress kept tangling around my ankles. My husband, the word still felt new, electric, was dancing with his groomsmen, laughing at something his brother said. He caught my eye across the floor and mouthed, "You good?" I nodded. My maid of honor leaned in, shouting over the music. "This is the best wedding I've ever been to, and I'm not even drunk yet." "Give it time," I shouted back. She grinned, then grabbed my arm. "Okay, but seriously, can we talk about what your husband said? Thank you for showing me exactly who she survived. I'm getting that tattooed." I laughed, but my chest tightened. The line had been circulating all night, passed from table to table like folklore. People kept coming up to me, touching my shoulder, saying things like, "You're so strong," and "I would have lost it," and "He's a keeper." I appreciated it. I did. But part of me still felt like I was watching the night from a distance, like I hadn't fully landed back in my body yet. Around 11, my husband found me near the dessert table, stealing a second slice of cake. He slid an arm around my waist, kissed my temple. "Having fun?" "Yeah, you?" "Best night of my life." I smiled. "Even with the surprise guest?" "Especially with the surprise guest." He paused. "Actually, I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Not bad, just come with me for a second." He led me out of the reception hall, down a hallway, into a small sitting room the venue used for private family moments. The music faded to a muffled thump. He closed the door. I set my plate down on a side table. "You're scaring me." "Don't be scared." He took both my hands. "I just want to be honest with you about something." "Okay." He exhaled. "I knew Matt might show up." I stared at him. "What?" "Not for sure, but I had a feeling. He'd been texting you, right? Leading up to the wedding?" "Yeah, but I blocked him weeks ago." "I know. But before that, you told me what he said. You'll never replace me." And I had this gut feeling he wasn't done. My pulse kicked up. "So what did you do?" "I called the venue. Told them there was a possibility someone might try to crash. I didn't give them a name, just described him. Asked them to have security on standby, but not to stop him unless he got violent." I pulled my hands back. "You told them not to stop him?" "I told them to let him in if he tried." "Yeah, why?" "Because you deserve to see him for what he was." His voice was calm, steady. "Not in your memory, not in some text message. In real life, in front of everyone, showing his ass. I wanted you to have that closure, and I wanted him to see that you didn't need saving." I opened my mouth, closed it. "You could have told me." "I know, but I didn't want you spending the whole day waiting for him to show. If he didn't, great. If he did, I wanted you to be surprised, not anxious." I stopped. "That's actually kind of brilliant." He smiled just a little. "I wasn't sure you'd see it that way. I'm still processing." I sat down on the arm of a chair. "You really thought he'd come?" "I thought there was a chance, and I didn't want to be blindsided, so I planned for it. What if he'd gotten violent? Then security would have handled it, but I didn't think he would. Guys like him don't get physical in front of a crowd. They get loud, they get dramatic, but they fold the second someone calls their bluff." I thought about the way Matt had stood there, his hands shaking, his voice cracking, the way he'd looked at me like I was supposed to save him from his own humiliation. "You read him perfectly," I said. "I've had practice." "What do you mean?" He sat down next to me. "I dated someone like him, years ago, before I met you. Different details. Same energy, always making me feel like I owed them something, like leaving would make me the villain. I hadn't known that. What happened? What? That people like that don't want you back. They want an audience. They want to rewrite the story so they're the victim. And the second you stop playing along, they lose. I looked at him, really looked at him, at the way he was sitting there, so calm, so certain, like he'd thought through every angle and decided long before today that I was worth the gamble. "You're kind of terrifying, you know that?" I said. He laughed. "In a good way?" "In the best way." He kissed me slow and careful like we had all the time in the world. Then he pulled back. "You're not mad?" "No, I paused. "I'm relieved. I didn't realize how much I needed that until it was over." "Good." We sat there for a minute, the music thumping faintly through the walls. Then I said, "Did security actually escort him out, or did he just leave?" "They escorted him, walked him all the way to the parking lot, made sure he got in his car and drove off. I asked them to send me a text when he was gone." "And?" "He left, didn't come back." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Thank God. "Yeah." We stood up. He offered me his hand. "Ready to go back?" "One more thing." "Did you really mean what you said? About him showing you who I survived?" He didn't hesitate. Every word. I kissed him again, harder this time, and felt the last piece of tension dissolve. We walked back into the reception together, and the DJ was playing something slow. My husband pulled me onto the floor, and we swayed in the center of the room, surrounded by people who loved us, who'd watched us get married, who'd seen the chaos and stayed anyway. My maid of honor appeared at the edge of the dance floor, phone in hand. "Okay, so this is already going viral." I stopped swaying. "What?" She turned the screen toward me. It was a video, shaky and vertical, shot from the third row of the ceremony. The angle caught everything. Matt walking in, my husband's calm response, the line that was now immortalized in shaky iPhone footage. The caption read, "Groom destroys ex who crashed the wedding. This is what real love looks like." "How many views?" my husband asked. 40,000 and climbing. I stared at the screen. Oh my God. People are losing their minds in the comments, she said, scrolling. "Look, this man is a legend. I want someone who loves me like this." The ex thought he was the main character and got humbled so fast. My husband laughed. "Well, that's one way to go viral." "I'm tagging you both," she said, already typing. "Please don't." Too late. She hit post, grinned, and disappeared back into the crowd. By midnight, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Texts from friends I hadn't talked to in years, DMs from strangers, notifications from people sharing the video. Someone had already made a TikTok breakdown, complete with slow motion replays and a voiceover dissecting the power dynamics. I I turned my phone off. Good call, my husband said. The night wound down slowly. People started leaving around 1, hugging us on their way out, telling us again how incredible the wedding was, how they'd never forget it. My dad shook my husband's hand one more time, pulled him aside, said something I couldn't hear. My husband nodded, and my dad clapped him on the shoulder. By 2, it was just us, the bridal party, and a handful of stubborn guests who refused to let the night end. The DJ packed up. The coordinator handed us a box of leftover cake and a folder of vendor contact info, and told us, with visible relief, that everything had been settled. Thank you, I said, for everything. It was a beautiful wedding, she said. Then quieter. I'm glad you're okay. I am. She smiled, small and tired, and left. We stood in the empty reception hall, the lights dimmed, chairs stacked along the walls. My husband took off his jacket, draped it over a chair, and loosened his tie. We're married, he said. We are. How does it feel? I thought about it. About the ceremony, the interruption, the applause, about the way he'd stood there, unshaken, and handed me the closure I didn't know I needed. About the video going viral, the comments, the strangers calling him a legend. But mostly, I thought about the way he'd looked at me when Matt walked in. Not worried, not protective, just steady, like he knew, without question, that I could handle it. It feels right, I said. He smiled. Yeah, it does. We walked out together into the parking lot where our car was waiting, decorated with streamers and tin cans and a just married sign someone had taped to the back window. My maid of honor had left a bottle of champagne on the hood with a note, "For the ride. You earned it." My husband opened the passenger door for me, and I climbed in, barefoot, dress bunched around my knees. He got in on the driver's side, started the engine, and we sat there for a moment, the lot quiet and dark around us. You know what's wild? I said. I thought if he ever showed up, I'd fall apart, or scream, or need someone to protect me. And I didn't. I just stood there and watched him lose. That's because you already won, he said, a long time ago. He reached over, laced his fingers through mine, and pulled out of the lot. The cans rattled behind us, loud and joyful, and I leaned my head against the window, watching the lights blur past. I didn't think about Matt. I didn't think about the video, or the comments, or the way people would retell the story for years. I thought about my husband, about the way he'd planned for the worst and trusted me with the best, about the fact that he'd known, long before I did, that I didn't need saving. I thought about the life we were driving toward, together, as equals, and I smiled. The hotel room was quiet, just the hum of the air conditioner and the faint sound of traffic below. I woke up first. My husband was still asleep, one arm draped across my waist, his breathing slow and even. The wedding dress hung on the back of the bathroom door, wrinkled and grass-stained at the hem. My shoes were kicked off somewhere near the foot of the bed. I reached for my phone out of habit, then stopped. I didn't want to see the notifications. Didn't want to read the comments or watch the video again or field texts from people I hadn't thought about in years. I opened it anyway, scrolled past the messages, past the tags until I found Matt's contact. Still blocked. I stared at it for a second, then deleted it entirely. No hesitation, no second guessing. My wedding ring caught the light as I set the phone down. Gold and simple. Exactly what I'd wanted. My husband stirred, pulled me closer without opening his eyes. You good? He mumbled. Yeah, I said. I'm good. He kissed my shoulder, already drifting back to sleep. You did great yesterday. I smiled, closed my eyes, let the sunlight fill the room. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I first started planning the wedding, but it was the one I needed. Clean, finished, mine. No ghosts left to answer to.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.